Lights flickered over the rooftop the moment I saw my father tip a white powder into my champagne glass. His hand did not shake. His smile did not twitch. No one saw it. Not the string quartet, not the guests, not even my sister reaching for her own drink beside me. I stood there with the flute warming in my hand, every instinct screaming, while my face stayed calm for the cameras. They expected me to drink it like I had swallowed every other silence in this family. Instead, I lifted the glass, smiled right back at him, and made a different choice. Later, people would ask when all of this really started. It was not the day the court hearings began, or when the headlines hit. It was the second I did not drink that night. My name is Kayla Monroe, and I grew up in a house where silence weighed more than praise. Our hallway walls were a shrine to my older sister, Riley. Framed certificates in perfect rows, trophies polished until the metal caught every bit of light, glossy photos of her next to judges, coaches, and visiting deans. My pictures were there too, but they lived lower on the wall, a little crooked, as if the house itself understood hierarchy. When I was 12, I won the state science fair with a project I built on the kitchen floor while everyone else slept. I collected water from nearby creeks, tested the samples, charted chemical runoff on a handmade poster board. When they announced my name, it felt like maybe, finally, something would shift. I came home holding that blue ribbon like it meant something. My father, Thomas, did not look up from his tablet. My mother, Diane, flipped pages in the newspaper. Riley was already dressed for her debate tournament, hair pinned exactly how our mother liked, blazer pressed. She barely glanced over. "That is expected," Thomas said, eyes still on the screen. "A Monroe should excel." Expected. Not celebrated. Diane finally gave the ribbon a glance, not me. "Your hair looks messy in this picture," she said, smoothing a wrinkle in the tablecloth. "Next time stand straighter. Cameras see everything." That night, Riley's silver debate trophy took the center of the shelf. My ribbon ended up clipped behind a photo of her in her tennis uniform. It stayed there for years, half hidden, gathering dust. That was the rhythm of my childhood. Holidays bent themselves around Riley's achievements. GPA announcements, scholarship calls on speaker, the day her acceptance letter arrived from a top business school. Every dinner somehow circled back to her. My grades, my projects, my small wins were mentioned the way people mention the weather. Noted, then dismissed. When I applied for environmental science instead of business, the house changed temperature. "A field with no real future," Thomas said. "No serious person chooses that path," Diane added. Riley lingered in the doorway while they lectured me, her expression soft, her voice silent. I learned early that quiet sympathy still feels like abandonment. The summer before college, I interned with an environmental nonprofit instead of the family company. At breakfast, Thomas read the email where I declined their internship. He set his spoon down carefully, the metal barely tapping ceramic. "If you insist on embarrassing this family," he said, "you can pay for your own mistakes." I went upstairs, opened my laptop, and filled out the student loan application. The air in my room felt still, almost relieved, as if something had finally been spoken out loud. The night before I left for school, Diane folded my clothes with the same precision she used for Riley's business trips. "No hug. No, I am proud of you. No, call me when you get there." Just a tiny tug on a loose thread on my sleeve and a small sigh. It was not open cruelty. It was a razor used so often it felt smooth. Looking back, I can see it clearly. The empty seats at my events, the way conversations always shifted away from me, the constant reminder that I was the shadow in a house built to spotlight someone else. That was the role they wrote for me. The rooftop party should have been simple. Graduation, the trust fund activation, a final polished show for their friends and business partners. Glass railings, city lights, quiet music, and the kind of careful smiles rich people wear when they know they are being watched. I did not mean to hear them in the service hallway. The main restroom had a line, so I slipped into the back corridor, where the air smelled like citrus cleaner and warm metal. Halfway to the door, I heard my parents' voices. Low. Tight. Wrong. This trust cannot go active while everything is unstable, Diane whispered. It transfers next week if she is fully independent, Thomas replied. If she keeps talking about waste, contaminated reports, those water samples, it puts everything at risk. There was a pause. If she is hospitalized, even briefly, the transfer is paused, he added. And if something worse happened before the paperwork cleared, Diane inhaled sharply. Thomas. It is precision, he said. A controlled setback. Nothing dangerous unless she reacts badly. We just need time. My hand froze on the restroom handle. Heat moved across my chest in a slow, steady wave. Not panic, not yet. My body was trying to keep me from reacting too fast. They were not talking about discipline. They were talking about me. I stepped back before they came around the corner, turned, and walked out into the rooftop air like nothing had shifted. But the city lights looked different. The music sounded thin. Every smile became a threat. Back at the party, guests clinked glasses and praised Riley's internship offers. The orchestra played something soft. My parents were back in costume. Perfect suit. Perfect dress. Perfect composure. I saw it clearly. The champagne tray arrived. My father spoke quietly to the waiter, then lifted one glass, just one, with deliberate ease. A small tilt of his wrist, a faint cloud sinking in the gold bubbles, then that glass placed by itself on the family tray as if he had done nothing out of the ordinary. He stepped away. Riley slipped to my side, brushing her hair back, laughing at some joke a cousin made. She did not notice his eyes on me. She never had a reason to. The waiter offered us the tray. I reached for the glass meant for me. My hand stopped. My heartbeat did not. I turned slightly, smiling, the kind of smile that photographs well. Here, I said lightly to Riley, take mine. They poured this one better. She did not question it. She never had to. She took the glass meant for me, tapped it against my new flute, and drank. I felt nothing. Not triumph. Not shock. Only a slow, heavy certainty settling into place. When Riley collapsed, the party did not stop all at once. It shuddered. First a small gasp near the musicians, then the clatter of cutlery, then her glass rolling across stone. By the time people fully processed it, I was already kneeling beside her. Her skin went pale in the rooftop lights. Her breathing turned thin and wrong. Thomas pushed through the crowd, calling her name with a panic I had never heard used for me. Diane's hands trembled as she tried to smooth Riley's hair, voice thin and shaking. We need an ambulance, I said. No one argued. In the service elevator, Riley's head rested against my shoulder. Her pulse was unsteady under my fingers. The metal walls hummed. Numbers blinked above the door. My mind was sharp and ice cold. Her glass. My glass. His hand. The powder. The choices I made in one breath would not disappear just because the floor changed beneath my feet. In the emergency bay, paramedics took her from me. Fluorescent lights made everything too harsh. Machines beeped. Nurses moved with focused calm. Dr. Patel appeared, calm eyes, steady voice. He worked quickly, asking questions, checking her pupils, her heart, her reflexes. She collapsed suddenly, he asked. Yes, I said. Did she have anything unusual to eat or drink? My jaw tightened. Champagne. That is all. Her symptoms escalated fast. Confusion. Tremors. Heart racing and refusing to calm. This looks like exposure to an anticholinergic type compound, Dr. Patel murmured to himself. My throat closed. Check for modified research-grade compounds, I said quietly. Not over the counter. He paused. Why that specifically? Because my father had access to restricted substances at the family labs. Because I had seen a powder hit the glass. Because I had heard him call it precision. I did not give those reasons. Just check, I said. He nodded and moved. Detective Mercer arrived not long after, notebook in hand. His tone was gentle, but his questions were not casual. Who poured the drinks? Who stood nearby? Who had access? I did not answer alone. Sasha and Tiana stepped forward, both still shaken. Sasha handed over her phone. "Watch this," she said. On the video, there we were. Thomas taking one glass, his hand hovering just a second too long. Something faint dropping in. The glass set aside. The tray carried toward me. Me smiling. Me swapping the flutes. Riley raising what was meant for me to her lips. Detective Mercer watched it twice. His jaw clenched. "I will need copies of every recording," he said. "They are already in your email," Tiana replied. "They did that on their own. I never had to ask." Hours blurred. Tests were run. Samples processed. Another investigator arrived, Agent Collins from the Federal Environmental Division. He went through lab access logs, internal records, shipment manifests. Each page seemed to confirm something he already suspected. By the time morning filtered through the high windows, Riley was stable. Pale, tired, alive. I stood by her bed when her eyes finally opened. "It was not supposed to be you," I said softly. Her brow furrowed. "What happened?" "You got between me and something meant to break me," I answered. "That is enough for now." She drifted back to sleep. Outside, in the waiting area, I sat down, pulled my bag into my lap, and started working. I opened my laptop and built the case I had been too afraid to finish. Dates of suspicious shipments. Water test results Margaret Green had quietly shared with me before she retired. Photographs of drainage points near our West facility. Screen captures of internal messages written to scare me into staying quiet while pretending to offer guidance. I created folders. Labs. Legal. Environment. Trust. I attached everything to a message for Melissa Cho, the attorney I had already contacted weeks before when the house felt too calm before graduation. "We need to move now." I typed it. I hit send. Then I downloaded copies to an encrypted drive, removed my access from the family servers, and logged out of every shared account with our last name on it. Thomas and Diane spoke quietly with their lawyer across the room. Their voices were low, the way people talk when they suddenly realize the walls have ears. For the first time, they felt distant. Small. Contained. I stepped outside into the cool morning air and whispered to myself, "This time, I am not fixing what they broke." By midday, the hospital no longer felt like just a hospital. It felt like the center of something being untangled. Officers stood near Riley's room. Detectives moved between nurses and staff. Agent Collins reviewed fresh toxicology reports beside Dr. Patel. "The compound is modified research grade," Dr. Patel said, reading from the chart. "Not something anyone buys casually." Agent Collins nodded. "We have seen similar work orders," he said. "From facilities tied to the Monroe Company." Diane flinched. Thomas went rigid. They took his statement first. "This is absurd," Thomas said. "She must have reacted badly to the alcohol. People exaggerate." Detective Mercer placed Sasha's video on the table. They watched him watch himself. The glass, the powder, the placement. His face drained of color. Riley's collapse. My switch. Everything in clear focus. "She drank what was poured for me," I said quietly. "That is the only reason she is alive." Diane stood up, voice shaking. "You do not understand," she said. "We were trying to protect the family. The reports, the investigations, the water tests. If that trust activated, if you spoke out, it would destroy everything. So you tried to slow me down," I replied. Her silence was sharp. Agent Collins flipped another page. "Access logs show you signed out this compound 3 days before the party," he told Thomas. "We have also located a private storage unit under a false name. It is filled with research materials, altered disposal records, and documentation that appears to redirect liability away from the company." Thomas turned on Diane instantly. "You should have kept quiet," he snapped. "You did this," she whispered back. Detective Mercer closed his notebook. "Both of you are being taken into custody while charges are prepared," he said. 2 officers stepped forward. Handcuffs clicked. Riley stood in her doorway, leaning on the frame. She watched them walk past with tired eyes, not pleading, not chasing, just seeing them clearly for the first time. Thomas looked at me. "You did this," he said. "No," I answered, calm. "You did. I just stopped cleaning it up." Diane reached for Riley. "Sweetheart, please, say something." Riley stepped back. She did not need words. Distance answered for her. When they were gone, the hallway felt wider. Not lighter exactly, just open. Agent Collins handed me his card. "Your cooperation helped us a lot," he said. "This kind of justice depends on people who stop staying quiet." "You will have everything you need," I replied. Later, when things calmed, Riley sat beside me outside her room and slipped her hand into mine. "Is it over?" she asked. "No," I said. "But the right part has started." The lake house did not care about any of it. Mornings arrived in layers. Mist first, then pale light, then the shoreline slowly appearing through the fog. The water moved in small ripples, steady and indifferent. After months of sirens, lawyers, and courtroom air, the quiet almost hurt. Riley walked carefully the first weeks, still rebuilding her strength. Sometimes I heard her pacing upstairs. Sometimes she sat beside me on the steps, wrapped in one of my oversized sweaters, eyes focused on the lake. She no longer wore the sharp blouses our mother picked. Her hair fell however it wanted. She looked like herself, maybe for the first time in years. I worked from the small wooden table facing the water, logging into my new role with a restoration group. I used everything I had learned, every test, every pattern, to clean up damage that looked a lot like what my family's company once created. Reports came in from the federal team. Seized assets. Soil projects beginning. Former employees finally telling the truth. Thomas and Diane waiting for trial, their control reduced to whatever they could argue from a chair in a courtroom. I read each update slowly. No rush. No celebration. Just confirmation. One evening, I walked out onto the dock. The air smelled like pine and cold water. The sky held the last stripe of red before slipping into blue. My reflection looked back at me from the surface. The same face. Fewer shadows. The rooftop felt far away. The glass. The powder. The choice. I could see it clearly, but it no longer sat on my chest. It sat behind me, where it belonged. Inside, Riley spread her law school brochures across the kitchen table. When I came back in, she looked up with a small, real smile. "There is still a lot ahead," she said. "I know," I answered. "But it is not their story anymore." She nodded. We sat there in comfortable quiet, listening to the soft hum of the fridge and the wind slipping through the open window. No one shouting. No one walking on eggshells. No one asking me to be smaller so someone else could breathe easier. I used to think survival meant staying quiet, taking the hit, folding myself into whatever shape kept the house from cracking. Now I know something simpler. Distance is not betrayal. It is recovery. Truth does not need a crowd to be real. It just needs enough space to stand. My family taught me how silence can wound. Life taught me how silence can heal. And somewhere between those two, I finally drew a line that holds. The life ahead of me is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is mine. And that is enough.